America's restaurant industry is collapsing, and the chains you've been eating at your whole life are about to disappear forever. We're not talking about small mom-and-pop shops. We're talking about massive chains with thousands of locations that are hemorrhaging money so fast they might not survive the year. Here's what's terrifying. Some of these restaurants are already closing hundreds of locations, laying off thousands of workers, and desperately trying to avoid bankruptcy. But it's too late. The damage is done, and the death spiral has already begun. Rising costs, changing customer habits, and years of bad decisions have created the perfect storm. Food costs are up 30%, labor costs are skyrocketing, and customers are staying home or choosing cheaper alternatives. The restaurants that survived COVID are now facing something even worse: complete financial collapse. But here's the kicker. Most of these chains are hiding their problems from customers. They're still advertising, still opening new locations, still pretending everything is fine. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, they're drowning in debt and burning through cash faster than they can make it. The number one chain on this list has already closed over 400 locations this year and is desperately trying to restructure billions in debt. Number 5 just laid off their entire corporate marketing team. And number 3, they're selling off assets just to make payroll. In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to expose the 10 restaurant chains that are closest to bankruptcy, reveal the warning signs you need to watch for, and explain why this collapse was inevitable. By the end of this video, you'll know which restaurants to avoid, because eating at a bankrupt chain is a nightmare you don't want to experience. Before we dive into the death list, let me explain why the restaurant industry is facing its worst crisis in history. This isn't just about one or two struggling chains. This is about fundamental changes that are destroying the entire business model. First, food costs have exploded. Beef prices are up 40%, chicken is up 25%, and even basic ingredients like flour and oil have doubled in price. Restaurants that were barely profitable before are now losing money on every meal they serve. Labor costs are even worse. The minimum wage has increased in most states, but more importantly, restaurants can't find workers at any price. They're offering signing bonuses, higher wages, and better benefits, but people just don't want to work in restaurants anymore. Rent costs are crushing restaurants that signed long-term leases before the pandemic. Prime locations that made sense when foot traffic was high are now financial death traps. Many chains are paying $30,000 a month for locations that generate half the revenue they used to. But the biggest problem is customer behavior. People are eating out less, ordering delivery more, and when they do go to restaurants, they're choosing cheaper options. The casual dining segment that dominated the industry for decades is dying. Delivery apps like DoorDash and Uber Eats are taking 30% commissions, making it impossible for restaurants to profit from takeout orders. But if they don't offer delivery, they lose customers to competitors who do. It's a lose-lose situation. The chains that are surviving are the ones that adapted quickly. Fast food with drive-thrus, pizza delivery, and fast casual concepts. The ones that are dying are the sit-down restaurants that built their business models on a world that no longer exists. Add in massive debt loads from expansion during good times, and you have a recipe for disaster. These chains borrowed money to grow when times were good, and now they can't service that debt when times are bad. Let's start with number 10.
Out here, it's Monday. In here, it's Friday. Friday. Tuesday.
TGI Fridays. This chain has been circling the drain for years, and 2025 might finally be the year they go under. The writing is on the wall, and it's written in red ink. TGI Fridays has closed over 200 locations in the past 3 years, and they're not done yet. The casual dining model that made them successful in the 80s and 90s is completely dead. Nobody wants to sit in a restaurant covered in random junk on the walls, eating overpriced appetizers and drinking sugary cocktails. Their debt load is crushing them. The company owes hundreds of millions to creditors, and their revenue keeps declining every quarter. They're in a classic death spiral, closing profitable locations to pay debt, which reduces revenue, which forces them to close more locations. The food quality has become a joke. Everything is frozen, reheated, and overpriced. Their famous loaded potato skins cost $12 and taste like they came from a gas station. Customers have figured out they can get better food for less money almost anywhere else. But the real problem is their identity crisis. TGI Fridays doesn't know what it wants to be. Are they a sports bar, a family restaurant, a place for drinks after work? They're trying to be everything to everyone and succeeding at nothing. Their locations are outdated and expensive to maintain. All that decorative junk on the walls costs money to clean and replace. The large dining rooms that seemed fun in the 90s now feel empty and depressing when they're half full. The franchise model is collapsing. Franchisees are walking away from their investments rather than continue losing money. When your own franchise owners don't want to operate your restaurants, you know you're in trouble. Management has been through multiple restructuring attempts, but you can't restructure your way out of a fundamentally broken business model. TGI Fridays represents everything that's wrong with casual dining: high costs, low quality, and no clear value proposition. Number 9 is Applebee's, and their slogan, "Eatin' good in the neighborhood," has become a cruel joke. They're not eating good, and they're disappearing from neighborhoods across America. Applebee's has closed over 300 locations since 2020, and the closures are accelerating. Their parent company, Dine Brands, is desperately trying to prop them up, but the fundamentals are terrible. Same-store sales have been declining for years, and there's no sign of recovery. The microwave meme destroyed their reputation. When customers started joking that Applebee's just reheats frozen food in microwaves, the company tried to fight back, but the jokes stuck because they were basically true. Most of their menu items are pre-made and reheated, not cooked fresh. Their target demographic, middle-class families, has been squeezed by inflation and is eating out less. When they do eat out, they're choosing cheaper options like fast food or higher quality options like fast casual chains. Applebee's is stuck in the middle with no compelling reason to choose them. The 2 for $20 deals that kept them alive during tough times are no longer profitable. Food costs have risen so much that they're losing money on these promotions, but they can't raise prices without losing even more customers. Their bar business, which used to be profitable, has been destroyed by changing drinking habits. Younger customers don't drink as much, and when they do, they prefer craft cocktails or wine, not the sugary mixed drinks that Applebee's specializes in. The locations are tired and outdated. The sports bar atmosphere that seemed cool in the 2000s now feels dated and uninspiring. Customers want Instagram-worthy experiences, not wood paneling and neon beer signs. Franchisees are struggling to stay afloat. Many locations are barely breaking even, and any unexpected expense, like equipment repairs or higher labor costs, pushes them into the red. The franchise model only works when locations are profitable. Number 8 is Ruby Tuesday, and they're already in bankruptcy proceedings. This isn't speculation. They're actively trying to restructure their debt and close unprofitable locations. The question isn't if they'll survive, but how many locations will be left when the dust settles. Ruby Tuesday has closed over 400 locations in the past 5 years. They went from nearly 1,000 restaurants to fewer than 200. That's not downsizing. That's a complete collapse of the business model. The salad bar that made them famous became a liability during COVID, and it never recovered. Health-conscious customers who used to love the salad bar found better options at fast casual chains. The rest of their menu was never compelling enough to stand on its own. Their debt restructuring in 2020 was supposed to save the company, but it just delayed the inevitable. They eliminated most of their debt, but they also eliminated most of their locations. The remaining restaurants are still struggling to generate enough revenue to be viable. The casual dining segment that Ruby Tuesday competed in has been decimated. Customers who want a sit-down meal with table service are choosing higher-end options. Customers who want convenience and value are choosing fast casual or fast food. Their menu became bloated and unfocused over the years. They tried to compete with everyone: steakhouses, Italian restaurants, burger joints, seafood places. The result was a menu that did nothing particularly well and gave customers no reason to choose Ruby Tuesday over specialists. The locations that remain open are often in secondary markets where they face less competition, but these markets also have smaller customer bases and lower average incomes. It's a survival strategy, not a growth strategy. Management turnover has been constant. When a company goes through multiple CEOs and restructuring attempts, it's usually a sign that the problems are too fundamental to fix with new leadership. Number 7 is Boston Market, and they're already in the middle of a slow-motion collapse. Hundreds of locations have closed permanently, employees aren't being paid, and the few remaining restaurants are operating on borrowed time. The rotisserie chicken concept that made Boston Market successful has been copied by everyone. Grocery stores sell better rotisserie chicken for less money. Costco's $5 rotisserie chicken is bigger, fresher, and cheaper than anything Boston Market offers. But the real problem is operational chaos. Multiple locations have been shut down for not paying employees. Others have been closed by health departments for food safety violations. When you can't pay your workers or maintain basic cleanliness standards, you're not really operating a restaurant anymore. The franchise franchise model collapsed completely. Most Boston Market locations were company-owned, which means the corporate parent was responsible for all the losses. When they couldn't afford to operate the restaurants anymore, they just abandoned them. Customers who used to rely on Boston Market for quick, healthy meals found better alternatives. Chipotle offers fresher food. Panera has better quality. Even grocery store prepared foods are more convenient and often taste better. The menu never evolved beyond the original concept. While competitors innovated and adapted to changing tastes, Boston Market kept serving the same rotisserie chicken and sides they'd been making for decades. Innovation requires investment, and they didn't have the money. Supply chain problems made everything worse. When you can't reliably get ingredients or your food costs are unpredictable, it's impossible to run a profitable restaurant. Boston Market was too small to negotiate good deals with suppliers and too cash poor to stockpile inventory. The brand has no value anymore. Even if someone wanted to buy Boston Market, what would they be getting? A name associated with failure, closed locations, and unpaid workers. It would be cheaper to start a new rotisserie chicken chain from scratch. Number 6 might surprise you. Subway. Despite being the largest restaurant chain in the world by location count, they're facing a crisis that could lead to massive closures and potential bankruptcy for many franchisees. Subway has already closed over 3,000 locations in the United States since 2016. That's more closures than most chains have total locations. The franchise model that made them successful is now destroying them from within. Franchisees are drowning in debt and can't make their locations profitable. The average Subway location generates less revenue than a McDonald's, but has similar operating costs. Many franchisees are walking away from their investments rather than continue losing money. The $5 footlong promotion that made Subway famous also made them unprofitable. They trained customers to expect cheap sandwiches, but food costs have risen so much that they lose money on every $5 footlong they sell. Raising prices means losing customers to competitors. Food quality has become a national joke. The Subway smell that used to be distinctive is now associated with processed artificial ingredients. Their bread contains so much sugar that Ireland legally classified it as cake, not bread. The healthy image that built their brand has been completely destroyed. Customers now know that Subway sandwiches are loaded with processed meats, artificial ingredients, and more calories than many burger meals. The health halo is gone forever. Competition from fast casual chains like Jimmy John's, Jersey Mike's, and local sandwich shops has eaten into their market share. These competitors offer fresher ingredients, better taste, and often faster service. The franchise agreement is so restrictive that owners can't adapt to local markets or innovate to improve their businesses. They're forced to buy ingredients from approved suppliers at inflated prices, follow corporate marketing campaigns that don't work, and operate under rules designed for a different era. Corporate leadership has been in chaos for years. Multiple CEOs, constant restructuring, and conflicting strategies have left franchisees without clear direction or support. Number 5 is Chuck E. Cheese, and they're facing an existential crisis that goes beyond just financial problems. The entire concept of Chuck E. Cheese is obsolete in the modern world. They already went through bankruptcy in 2020, but the restructuring didn't solve the fundamental problems. Kids today don't want to play arcade games when they have smartphones and tablets. Parents don't want to spend money on overpriced pizza and tokens when they can entertain their kids at home. The pizza has always been terrible, but now it's also expensive. Customers are paying premium prices for food that tastes worse than frozen pizza from the grocery store. The entertainment value used to justify the bad food, but even that's not working anymore. Birthday parties, which were their bread and butter, have moved online or to other venues. Why deal with the chaos of Chuck E. Cheese when you can have a party at home, at a park, or at a trampoline park? The value proposition has completely disappeared. The locations are expensive to maintain and operate. All those arcade games need constant repair. The animatronic shows are outdated and creepy. The play areas require extensive cleaning and safety monitoring. The overhead costs are enormous for a business with declining revenue. Hygiene concerns have made parents reluctant to bring their kids to Chuck E. Cheese. The ball pits, play areas, and arcade games are breeding grounds for germs. Post-COVID, parents are much more cautious about exposing their children to these environments. The franchise model is collapsing. Franchisees can't make money when their target customers, families with young children, are choosing other entertainment options. Many locations have closed permanently, leaving gaps in coverage that make the brand less relevant. The brand itself has become a cultural punchline. Chuck E. Cheese is associated with chaos, bad food, and screaming children. That's not the kind of brand association that drives customer traffic or franchise investment. Number 4 is Quiznos, and they're already essentially dead. They just haven't admitted it yet. This is a masterclass in how to destroy a successful restaurant chain through greed and mismanagement. Quiznos went from over 5,000 locations at their peak to fewer than 200 today. That's not a decline, that's a complete collapse. The toasted sub concept that made them successful was copied by Subway and others, leaving Quiznos with no competitive advantage. The franchise model was designed to extract maximum money from franchisees while providing minimal support. Franchisees were forced to buy ingredients and supplies from corporate-approved vendors at inflated prices. They couldn't negotiate better deals or source locally, which made profitability impossible. Corporate greed destroyed franchisee relationships. While franchisees were struggling to stay afloat, corporate was collecting fees and markups on everything. The interests of corporate and franchisees were completely misaligned. Multiple bankruptcy filings and ownership changes created chaos and uncertainty. Franchisees never knew if corporate would be around to support them or if their investment would be worthless. This uncertainty made it impossible to plan for the future or invest in improvements. The food quality declined as corporate cut costs and changed suppliers. The toasted subs that made Quiznos famous became indistinguishable from cheaper alternatives. Without superior food quality, there was no reason to choose Quiznos over competitors. Marketing support disappeared as corporate focused on extracting money rather than building the brand. Franchisees were left to compete against well-funded national chains with no advertising support and inferior products. The remaining locations are mostly in airports, gas stations, and other captive markets where customers have limited choices. This isn't a sustainable business model. It's just milking the last value from a dead brand. Number 3 is Red Lobster, and their financial situation is so dire they're literally selling off everything they own just to stay afloat. The endless shrimp promotions that customers love are the exact reason they're going bankrupt. Red Lobster has been hemorrhaging money for years, and 2024 was the breaking point. They filed for bankruptcy and immediately closed over 100 locations. The remaining restaurants are operating under bankruptcy protection, which means they could disappear at any moment. The endless shrimp promotion that made them famous also made them broke. They were losing money on every customer who took advantage of the deal, but they couldn't stop offering it without losing even more customers. It was a death spiral disguised as a marketing campaign. Seafood costs have exploded, making their entire business model unsustainable. Shrimp prices are up 40%, lobster is up 60%, and fish prices fluctuate wildly based on weather and supply chain issues. When your main ingredients are that volatile and expensive, you can't run a profitable restaurant. The casual dining segment that Red Lobster dominated is dying. Customers who want seafood are either going to higher-end restaurants for special occasions or buying it from grocery stores to cook at home. The middle market that Red Lobster occupied has disappeared. Their locations are outdated and expensive to maintain. The nautical theme that seemed charming in the 80s now feels dated and cheesy. The large dining rooms designed for big groups and special occasions sit empty most of the time. Private equity ownership destroyed the company's long-term viability. The owners sold off Red Lobster's real estate to generate cash, then forced the restaurants to pay rent on properties they used to own. This financial engineering extracted value for investors while crippling the operating business. The workforce problems are severe. Red Lobster requires skilled cooks who know how to prepare seafood properly, but they can't afford to pay competitive wages. The result is inexperienced staff serving overpriced, poorly prepared food to increasingly dissatisfied customers. Number 2 is Hooters, and they're facing a perfect storm of changing social attitudes, declining sales, and a business model that's completely out of step with modern values. The concept that made them successful is now their biggest liability. Hooters has closed hundreds of locations and is desperately trying to rebrand themselves as a family restaurant. But you can't just change your marketing and expect people to forget decades of sexualized branding. The damage to their reputation is permanent. The restaurant concept is dead. Younger customers find it offensive and outdated. Older customers who used to frequent Hooters are aging out or have been shamed away by changing social norms. The target demographic has essentially disappeared. Their food was never good enough to stand on its own, and now it's not even competitively priced. You can get better wings at dozens of other places for less money. Without the controversial atmosphere to differentiate them, Hooters is just another overpriced sports bar with mediocre food. The franchise model is collapsing as franchisees realize they can't make money with a concept that alienates half their potential customers. Many locations have been converted to other restaurant concepts or closed permanently. Legal problems have plagued the company for years. Discrimination lawsuits, harassment claims, and employment law violations have cost millions in settlements and legal fees. The business model that objectifies women was always a legal liability waiting to happen. The sports bar market they're trying to pivot into is oversaturated and dominated by better-funded competitors. Buffalo Wild Wings, Dave & Buster's, and local sports bars offer better food, better atmosphere, and better value without the baggage. Corporate leadership has been in chaos, with multiple ownership changes and failed turnaround attempts. When a company goes through that many leadership changes, it usually means the problems are too fundamental to fix. And number 1 is Pizza Hut, the most shocking entry on this list because they used to be the biggest pizza chain in America. Now they're closing locations faster than they can count, losing market share to everyone, and facing potential bankruptcy within the next 2 years. Pizza Hut has closed over 1,500 locations since 2019, and the closures are accelerating. They've lost their position as America's largest pizza chain to Domino's, and they're losing ground to Papa John's, Little Caesars, and even local pizza shops. The dine-in model that made Pizza Hut successful is completely dead. Nobody wants to sit in a Pizza Hut restaurant when they can get delivery from better pizza places. The red roof buildings that were once iconic are now expensive liabilities that generate no additional revenue. Their pizza quality has declined dramatically while prices have increased. Customers consistently rate Pizza Hut pizza as inferior to competitors, and they charge more for worse food. That's not a sustainable business model in a competitive market. The franchise system is in chaos. Many franchisees are bankrupt or have walked away from their locations. The largest Pizza Hut franchisee, NPC International, filed for bankruptcy in 2020 and closed over 300 locations. When your biggest franchise partner goes bankrupt, it's a sign that the business model is fundamentally broken. Delivery competition has destroyed their competitive advantage. DoorDash, Uber Eats, and other delivery apps now deliver from local pizza shops that offer better food at competitive prices. Pizza Hut's delivery network used to be their moat. Now it's just an expensive overhead cost. The buffet locations that generated steady revenue are gone forever. The Pizza Hut buffet was a reliable profit center that brought in families and groups. Post-COVID health concerns killed the buffet model, eliminating a key revenue stream that many locations depended on. Debt levels are crushing the company. Years of declining sales while maintaining expensive real estate and equipment have created a debt burden that's impossible to service with current revenue levels. They're borrowing money to pay interest on money they already borrowed. The brand has no clear identity anymore. Are they a delivery company, a casual dining restaurant, a fast food chain? They're trying to be everything and succeeding at nothing. Customers don't know what Pizza Hut stands for, and neither does Pizza Hut. International expansion has been a disaster. They've closed locations in multiple countries and pulled out of markets where they couldn't compete. The global pizza empire they once envisioned has crumbled, leaving them dependent on a shrinking US market. Look, I've just exposed the 10 restaurant chains that are closest to bankruptcy, and the evidence is undeniable. These aren't just struggling businesses. They're dying brands that represent billions in lost value and hundreds of thousands of lost jobs. But this collapse was predictable and preventable. Every one of these chains made the same mistakes. They prioritized short-term profits over long-term sustainability, ignored changing customer preferences, and loaded up on debt during good times. The restaurant industry is going through the biggest transformation in its history. The chains that survive will be the ones that adapt quickly, maintain quality, and actually serve their customers instead of just extracting money from them. If this video opened your eyes to what's really happening in the restaurant industry, share it with someone who needs to see this. Your friends, your family, anyone who works in restaurants or invests in restaurant stocks. They deserve to know which way the wind is blowing. And if you want more exposés about industries in crisis, companies hiding their problems, and the economic disasters that are coming, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. The restaurant apocalypse is just the beginning. Remember, every dollar you spend is a vote for the kind of businesses you want to see survive. Stop supporting chains that are circling the drain and find local alternatives that actually care about quality and community. The future of dining depends on the choices you make today.